going to do the reader work. All of you open your readers to start chapter number 9. The parent. Okay? In chapter number 8 in Miss Trunchbull, we read that Miss Honey, she went to the headmistress office. She wanted to confirm, she wanted to assure Miss Trunchbull about Matilda's brilliance. But Miss Trunchbull was not able to accept anything. She believed that Matilda was a naughty girl and she was a troublemaker, and she put stigma under her desk. Okay, so she was not accepting it to like promote her and make her sit with the senior boys and girls. Miss Sunny tried every possible effort to convince Miss Trunchbull, but she didn't listen to Miss Honey. Okay, so she was very much depressed, but she didn't give up and she decided to talk to her parents. Now, who will start reading? The parents? Okay. Keep your pencils in your hand so that you can note down the meanings. Yes, Mustaf. And please turn on your cameras also, beta. Yes, start reading, Mustaf. The parents.
The parents. When Miss Honey emerged from the headmistress' study, most of the children were outside in the playground. Her first move was to go round to the various teachers who taught the senior class and borrow from them a number of textbooks. Books on algebra, geometry, French, English literature and
Literature and the
literature
like.
and the like. Then she sought out Matilda and called her into the classroom. There is no point, she said,
Okay,
in your
Mustaf, side by side I will explain it. Okay. So when Miss Honey she came out from the headmistress room, she saw the children in the playground. So first she went to the various teachers who were taking the senior classes in order to get the books of algebra, textbooks, French, geometry, English literature. Then she started looking for. Sought out means found out. Okay, searching for. Then she found out Matilda and she called her into the classroom. Yes, continue.
there is no point, she said, in you sitting in class doing nothing while I am teaching the rest of the form the two times table and how to spell cat and rat and mouse. So during each lesson I shall give you one of these textbooks to study. At the end of the lesson, you can come up to me with your questions if you have any, and I shall try to help you. How does that sound? Thank you, Miss Honey, Matilda said. That sounds fine. I am
Okay,
sure, Miss Honey said.
wait,
That we,
Musa. Wait. So Miss Honey said to Matilda that it's useless to teach you two times table and the spelling of cat, mouse, rat, and things like that. Okay. So that is why she gave the books to Matilda, and she said that while I'll be teaching to the class, you can read the textbooks, and then at the end of the class, you can come up to me if you have any questions and you can discuss with me. Matilda was very happy and pleased with Miss Honey, and she said that it sounds fine. Yes, continue.
I'm sure Miss Honey said that will be able to get you moved into a much higher from later on, but for the moment the headmistress wishes you to stay where you are. Very well, Miss Honey, Matilda said. Thank you so much for getting those books for me. What a nice child she is, Miss Honey thought. I don't care what her father said about her. She seems very quiet and gentle to me, and not a bit stuck up in spite of her brilliance. In fact, she hardly seems aware of it.
Okay, now what Miss Sunny said? Miss Sunny said that such a nice child, and she said that the headmistress has said that right now she will not be able to promote you, and you are going to stay where you are. Okay. So Miss Sunny said that I don't care what her father had said about her because Mr. Wormwood said that she is a very naughty girl, she is a troublemaker, she is this and that. But Matilda was a lovely and a nice child. Okay, continue.
So when the class reassembled, Matilda went to her desk.
Reassemble. Reassemble.
Reassembled, Matilda went to her desk and began to study a textbook on geometry which Miss Honey had given her. The teacher kept half an eye on her all the time and noticed that the child very soon became deeply absorbed in the book. She never glanced up once during the entire lesson.
Okay. When so
Miss
when
Honey
after the break, when the class again came back, when the children again came back into the classroom, Matilda started reading the book, and Miss Honey kept her eye on Matilda. She was completely absorbed in the book, and she didn't even look up at once during the entire class. Okay, Miss Honey.
Miss Honey, meanwhile, was making another decision. She was deciding that she would go herself and have a secret talk with Matilda's mother and father as soon as possible. She simply refused to let the matter rest where it was. The whole thing was ridiculous. She couldn't believe that the parents were totally unaware of their daughter's remarkable talents. After all, Mr. Wormwood
Mr.
was a
Woman.
successful motor car dealer, so she
Presumed.
presumed that presumed that he was a fairly intelligent man himself. In any event, parents never underestimate the abilities of their own children. Quite, quite the
Quite the
reverse.
reverse.
Sometimes it was well nigh
Nigh. What
impossible for a
nigh
teacher
means?
to
Nigh means beta near. Near. Okay, near. Nearly. Over here we will use it as nearly impossible.
it was well nigh impossible for a teacher to convince the proud father or mother that their beloved offspring
Offspring.
was a complete
Nitwit.
offspring was a complete nitwit.
Nitwit
Miss
means
Honey
nitwit means
Miss Honey
stupid
felt
person.
confident Miss Honey felt confident that she would have no difficulty in convincing Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood that Matilda was something very special indeed. The trouble was going to be to stop them from getting over
Enthusiastic.
enthusiastic.
Enthusiastic. Okay, myself. Okay. Now I'll read this paragraph. Miss Sunny, meanwhile, was making another decision. So Miss Sunny, she started making another decision. And what was this? That decision? She decided to talk to Matilda's parents. She decided to go to her house and to have a secret talk with Matilda's mother and father. She simply refused to let the matter rest where it was. The whole thing was ridiculous. Ridiculous means silly, foolish. She couldn't believe that the parents were totally unaware of their daughter's remarkable talents because she was not aware of Mrs. Wormwood. So she thought that how is it possible that the parents were totally unaware of the abilities of their daughter. After all, Mr. Wormwood was a successful motor car dealer, but he was only a cheater. You know this thing that he cheated in dealing with motor cars. So she presumed. Presumed means to assume something, to believe in something. That he was a fairly intelligent man himself. In any event, parents never underestimated the abilities of their own children. Quite the reverse, sometimes it was well nigh. Nigh means near. But over here we will use it nearly impossible. It was nearly impossible for a teacher to convince the proud father mother that their beloved offspring means their children, was a complete nitwit. Nitwit means stupid person. Okay, so obviously, if a teacher will say to a parent that your child is stupid or your child is lazy or your child is this and that, the parents would definitely not going to believe the teacher. So teacher cannot convince a proud father or mother that their child is stupid. Miss Honey felt confident that she would have no difficulty in convincing Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood that Matilda was something very special indeed. The trouble was going to be to stop them from getting over enthusiastic. Enthusiastic means keen about something, really energetic to get something. Okay? Now who will read? Raise your hand. Yes, Khadija. From here. And now Miss Honey's hopes. But I can't hear you. But either you adjust your mic and then I will ask you reading. Tahir, yes, you start reading. Yes, Tahir.
She started wondering whether permission might not be
Better read properly, Tahir. And now Miss Honey's hopes began to expand even further. Yes.
and on this Miss Needs hope began to expand even further. She started wondering
Wondering
whether permission might
might
not be sought
thought
from the parents of her to give private
private
tuition
tuition
to Matilda after the prospect of putting a child abroad as paid enormously
child
to her partner
child
instinct as a teacher, and suddenly she decided that she would go and call on Miss Mound that very evening. She would go till late between 9 and 10 o'clock. When Matilda was sure to in bed, and
Okay,
that is
Tahir. Okay,
pretty.
Tahir. Better please adjust your mics, everybody. It's very important, okay? That your mic must be working properly. Mic or headphone, whatever you are using. And now Miss Sunny's hopes began to expand even further. Okay, what was her hope? She wanted to see Matilda sitting with the senior students and using her intelligence in a proper manner, okay, not wasting herself with the juniors. She started wondering whether permission might not be sought from the parents for her to give private tuition to Matilda after school. And she started thinking if her parents would give her permission to start teaching Matilda after school or not. The prospect of coaching a child as bright as this appealed enormously to her professional instinct as a teacher. She really wanted to teach a brilliant child. Okay, that would be very nice for her as a professional teacher. Okay, she wanted to check her coaching style. And suddenly she decided that she would go and call on Mr. and Mrs. Wormwood that very evening. And she decided that she would go between 9 and 10 o'clock so Matilda would be asleep by that. Yes. Now we will read. Yes, Ali Hassan. Ali Hassan. All the boys, please turn on your cameras. I have told you so many times, better that your cameras must be turned on. Okay? Yes, Ali Hassan. Start reading from here, and that is precisely what she did.
And that is
I
precisely what what she did. Having got the address from the school record, Miss Honey set out to walk from her own home to the records. Miss Honey set
the
out
To the Wormwood's house.
Wormwood House. Shortly after 9, she found the house in a pleasant street where is smallish building,
Smallish. It's smallish,
small,
Ali Hassan.
smallish building was separated from its neighbors by a
Neighbors. Neighbors.
neighbors by a bit of garden. It was a modern brick house that could not have been cheap to buy, and the name on the gate said Cozy Nook. Nosy, Nosy Cook,
Cozy cook.
Nosy Cook might have been better. Miss Honey thought she was given to playing with words in that way. She walked up the path and rang the bell, and while she stood waiting, she could hear the television blaring inside.
Blaring inside, yes.
The door was opened by a small, tatty-looking
Kathy.
man, tatty-looking man with a thin, ratty mouse touch
Mustache. Say
mustache,
mustache.
mustache was who was wearing a sports coat that had an orange and red strip in the material. Yes, he said, peering out at Miss Honey. Of you are selling raffle tickets.
Raffle
Tickets.
ticket,
I
yes.
don't want any. I am not Miss Honey said, and please forgive me for butting
Putting
in
in.
on you like this. I am Matilda, teacher at school, and it is important I have a word with you. Have you
And
and
your
your
wife.
wife got into trouble
Already.
already?
Has
Has
she?
she? Mr. Wormwood said, blocking the doorway. Well, she, your
Responsible.
responsibility,
Responsibility.
respon-
Responsibility.
responsibility. From now on, you will have to deal with her. She
Okay.
is
Okay, Ali Hassan. Okay, good beta. I'm going to explain. Please note down the important points of that. Okay, and that is precisely. Precisely means exactly. Okay, exactly. And that is precisely what she did. Having got the address from the school records, Miss Honey set out to walk from her own home to the Wormwood's house shortly after 9. So Miss Honey was determined. She took the address from the school, and after 9 o'clock, she started walking towards Mr. Wormwood's house. She found the house in a pleasant street where each smallish building was separated from its neighbors by a bit of garden. So the house was in a nice place, and the buildings were separated from one another through gardens. It was a modern brick house that could not have been cheap to buy, and the name on the gate said Cozy Nook. Cozy Nook means, can you see Cozy Nook? Cozy Nook means sheltered place, comfortable place, sheltered place. Okay, write down the meaning sheltered place. Sheltered, sheltered place. Nosy Cook might have been better, Miss Honey thought. So Miss Honey, she made up her own name, and because she really liked this thing, making up words in this manner. She walked up the path and rang the bell, and while she stood waiting, she could hear the television blaring inside. Okay, She could hear the sound of the television was even coming outside. She was waiting for somebody to open the door. Door was opened by a small ratty looking. I've told you the meaning of ratty looking. Ratty looking means bad tempered. Bad tempered. BAD bad, then you have to put a hyphen and then tempered. TEMPERED. Bad tempered man. With a thin ratty mustache, who was mustache, all of you know the hair on the upper part of your mouth. Man's mouth. Was wearing a sports coat that had an orange and red stripe in the material. Okay, so he was always dressed up, in that check design suits and things like that. Yes, he said, peering out at Miss Honey. Peering out means looking out. Said, yes, if you are selling raffle tickets, I don't want any. He thought that Miss Honey might be a person who has come to sell them the raffle tickets. Raffle tickets are like the lottery ticket if you're playing some kind of a lottery. I'm not, Miss Honey said, and please forgive me for butting in. Butting means disturbing you or interfering. Okay, interfering or disturbing. So Miss Honey said to Mr. Wormwood that I am not selling any tickets like that, and please, I'm extremely sorry to disturb you at this hour. I'm Matilda's teacher at school, and it is important I have a word with you and your wife. So Miss Honey said that I'm a teacher of Matilda, and it is extremely important that I wanted to discuss something with you. Got into trouble already, has she? Mr. Wormwood said. So Mr. Wormwood said, oh, I think she must have created some trouble, blocking the doorway. So Mr. Wormwood was not letting Miss Honey to enter inside the house. Well, she's your responsibility from now on. You'll have to deal with her. So Mr. Wormwood said to Miss Honey that she is your responsibility. You are the teacher. She is in your class or she is in your school, so you have to deal with her. She is in no trouble at all, Miss Honey said. I have come with good news about her. Quite startling news. Startling means amazing, surprising, like you are shocking news. Mr. Wormwood. Do you think I might come in for a few minutes and talk to you about Matilda? So Miss Honey was seeing in the picture. You can see that Miss Honey, Mr. Wormwood is not letting Miss Honey go inside the house. Come inside the house. So Miss Honey said that, do you think that if I would come inside and discuss with you about Matilda? Okay, beta, it's page number 88 now. Page number 88. Yes, who wants to read now? Raise your hand. Yes, Khadija. I've unmuted you, beta. Gee, we are right. Yes. Yes. But I can't hear you. Yes, Mariam Mujib.
We are right in the middle of watching one of our favorite programs, Mr. Wormwood said. This is most
Inconvenient.
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 Why don't you come back some other time? Miss Honey began to lose patience. Mr. Wormwood,
Patience.
she said, if you think some rotten TV program is more important than your daughter's future, then you ought not to be a parent. Why don't you switch the darn thing off and listen to me? That shook Mr. Wormwood. He was not used to being spoken to in this way. He peered carefully at the slim, frail woman who stood so resolutely out on the porch.
Coach.
porch. Oh, very well then, he snapped. Come on in and let's and let's get it over with. Miss Honey stepped briskly inside. Mrs. Wormwood isn't going to thank you for this, the man said as he led her into the sitting room where a large platinum blonde woman
Blonde woman.
was gazing
Rapturously.
rapturously at
Rapturously.
TV. Rapturously at the TV screen.
TV screen.
Who is it? The woman said, not looking round. Some school teacher, Mr. Wormwood said. She says she's got to talk to us about Matilda. He crossed to the TV set and turned down the sound but left the picture on the screen. Don't do that, Harry, Mrs. Wormwood cried out. Willard is just about to
Propose.
propose to Angelica.
Angelica.
Angelica, you can still watch it while we're talking, Mr. Wormwood said. This is Matilda's teacher. She says she's got some sort of news to give us. My name is Jennifer Honey.
Jennifer Honey.
Jennifer Honey, Miss Honey said. How do you do, Mrs. Wormwood? Mrs. Wormwood glared at her and said, what's the trouble then? Nobody invited Miss Honey to sit down, so she chose a chair and sat down anyway. This, she said, was your daughter's first day at school? We know that, Mrs. Wormwood said, ratty about missing her program. Is that all you came to tell us?
Okay, beta. Good. I'm going to explain till here. From here. We are right in the middle of watching one of our favorite programs, Mr. Wormwood said. This is most inconvenient. Inconvenient means uneasy. Okay? Not easy. Why don't you come back some other time? So Mr. Wormwood said that we are watching a very important program, our favorite program. So why don't you come some other time? Miss Honey began to lose patience. Mr. Wormwood, she said, if you think some rotten TV program is more important than your daughter's future, then you ought not to be a parent. Ought not to be a parent, you shouldn't be a parent. Why don't you switch the darn thing off and listen to me? So Miss Honey was completely like she lost her patience and she just said to Mr. Wormwood that if you are thinking that some silly and spoiled TV program is better than your daughter, then you shouldn't be a parent. Why can't you switch off the TV and just listen to me? That shook Mr. Wormwood. Mr. Wormwood was startled. He was shocked because nobody had talked to him in this manner before. He peered carefully at the slim, frail woman who stood so resolutely out on the porch. Resolutely means firmly, in a determined manner, like she was not going to go back. So Mr. Wormwood, he looked at the slim woman who was standing firmly on the porch. Oh, very well then, he snapped. Come on in and let's get it over with. Miss Honey stepped briskly inside. Briskly means quickly, okay? She quickly entered inside the house. Mrs. Wormwood isn't going to thank you for this, the man said as he led her into the sitting room where a large platinum blonde woman was gazing rapturously at the TV. Rapturously means in a joyful manner, happily, okay? And so Mr. Wormwood took her into the sitting room where a very huge woman having silver blonde hair, she was looking in a joyful manner at the TV screen. Who is it? Some school teacher, Mr. Wormwood said. She says she has got to talk to us about Matilda. He crossed to the TV set and turned down the sound but let the picture on the screen. So Mr. Wormwood, he went to the TV set and he turned down its volume, but he didn't turn off the TV. Don't do that, Harry. Harry is the name of Mr. Wormwood. Mrs. Wormwood cried out. Willard is just about to propose to Angelica. They are talking about the TV program, the drama, or the show, whatever they were watching. You can still watch it while we are talking, Mr. Womwood said. This is Matilda's teacher. She says she has got some sort of news to give us. So Mr. Womwood said to his wife that you can keep watching while we can also discuss with Miss Honey. She is Matilda's teacher and she wanted to discuss something about Matilda. My name is Jennifer Honey. How do you do, Mrs. Wormwood? Mrs. Wormwood just looked at her and she said, "What's the trouble then?" She said, "What's the trouble? What's the problem?" And they didn't ask Miss Honey to sit down. So she chose a chair and sat down anyway. "This was your daughter's first day at school. We know that," Mrs. Wormwood said, ratty about missing her program. She was in a bad mood because she was missing her favorite program. So she said to Miss Honey, "Is this all that you have come to talk about?" Okay. Now who will read? Yes, Muzammil. All the boys, please turn on your cameras, beta. Yes, Muzammil. Start reading. Roma. Okay, Roma, you can read. I've unmuted you. Yes. Start reading. Miss Honey stared hard.
Miss Honey stared hard into Miss Honey stared hard into
Yes, beta, now read.
Miss Honey stared hard into the other woman's wet grey eyes, and she allowed the silence to hang in the air until Mr. Wormwood became uncomfortable.
Okay. Became
Do you
uncomfortable.
wish me to explain why I came? She said. Get on with it. Then Mr. Wormwood said, I am sure you know, Miss Honey, said that children in the bottom class at school are not expected to be able to read or spell or juggle with numbers. When they first arrive, 5-year-old cannot do that, but Matilda can do that all. And if I am to believe her, I wouldn't, Mr. Wormwood said. She was still wetty and losing the sound on the teeth. Was she lying then? Miss Honey said. When she told me that nobody taught her to multiply or to read. Did either of you teach her? Teach her what? Mr. Wormwood said. To read to read books, Miss Honey said. Perhaps you did teach her. Perhaps she was lying. Perhaps you have sleeves full of books
Shelves. Shelves
all
full
over
of
the house.
books. It is shelves. Okay, shelves.
Shelves for the books all over the house. I wouldn't know. Perhaps you are both great readers. Of course we read, Mr. Wormwood said. Don't be so daft. I read I read the
I write the autocar.
I read the
No, I read the autocar because it's every week, na present tense. I read the autocar.
okay
I read the autocar and the motor. Yes, I read the
I
auto.
read the
No,
autocar and the motor from cover to cover every week. This child has already read an
write
astonishing
this one.
number of books, Miss Honey said. I was simply trying to find out if she came from a family that loved good literature. We don't hold with book reading, Mr. Wormwood said. You can't make a living from sitting on your
On your
fanny and
fanny.
reading storybook. We don't keep them in the house. I see, Miss Honey said. Well, all I come to tell
Came to tell
tell
you.
you was that Matilda has a brilliant mind. But I accept you knew that already. Of course I knew she could read, the mother said. She spent her life up in the room buried in some silly books. But does it
Not intrigue you?
intrigue
Intrigue you?
you? Miss Honey
Intrigue
said.
you? Intrigue you?
That
Intrigue
a
means does it
5-year-old child
is reading?
intrigue you, you. Miss
Intrigue you.
Honey said
Huh.
that a little 5-year-old child is reading long adult novels by Dickens and Hemingway.
Hemingway. Hemingway.
Doesn't that Dickens and Hemingway? Doesn't doesn't that make you jump up and down with excitement?
Excitement.
Not particularly, her mother said. I am not in favor of blue stocking girl. A girl should think about making herself looking attractive so she can get a good husband later on. Looks is more important than Miss Miss Hunky. The name is Honey. Miss Honey said. Now look at me, Mr. Wormwood said.
Mrs.
Then you
Wormwood said,
look at
you.
you choose books. I choose looks.
Beta, it's when we are using it in past tense, na, it's chose. Okay? You chose
Okay.
books, I chose looks. Okay, now I'm going to explain. To start from here. Yes. Miss Sunny stared hard into the other woman's red grey eyes and she allowed the silence to hang in the air until Mrs. Wormwood became uncomfortable. Do you wish me to explain why I came? She said. Get on with it then, Mrs. Wormwood said. So Miss Honey kept on looking at Mrs. Wormwood until she became uncomfortable. And then Miss Honey said, do you want me to explain why I have come to your house? Mrs. Wormwood said, yes. I'm sure you know that children in the bottom class at school are not expected to be able to read or spell or juggle with numbers when they first arrive. 5-year-olds cannot do that, but Matilda can do it all. And if I am to believe her, so Miss Honey started her discussion that you know this thing that 5-year-old children are in the bottom class and they cannot easily read or spell the words or they can play with numbers or juggle with numbers. So, but Matilda can do it. And if I am to believe her, I wouldn't, Mrs. Wormwood said. She was still ratty at losing the sound on the TV. Was she lying then? When she told me that nobody taught her to multiply or to read, did either of you teach her? Teach her what? Mr. Wormwood said. So Miss Honey asked them that was she lying? Because she said to me, she told me that nobody in her house taught her to multiply or to read, to teach her. So Mr. Wormwood said, teach her what? To read books. Miss Honey said, perhaps you did, perhaps means maybe. There's a possibility. Perhaps she was lying. Perhaps you have shelves full of books all over the house. I wouldn't know. Perhaps you are both great readers. Of course we read, Mr. Wormwood said. Don't be so daft. Daft means stupid. Okay? I read the autocar and the motor from cover to cover every week. So he said, Mr. Wormwood said, oh, don't be so silly. Of course